Hello and welcome to the Deception Tips podcast, where you will learn amazing cues to detect deceit that will help you read people like never before. I'm your host, Spencer Kaufman. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Deception Tip episode number 74. Today we've got a cool tip in store for you. It's one that we haven't touched at all yet. However, I've mentioned it a couple of times. In addition, it's related to several other tips. We've talked a lot over the past year and a half, really, about different tips related to breathing. We've had several episodes dedicated to something with breathing and how liars will breathe or exhale or something like that. And a few of those are related to the tip of today. So I'm going to recap all of the little breathing episodes that are related. I'm not going to touch all of the breathing episodes. However, if you want to examine more episodes on breathing, I encourage you to take a look at the Deception Tip videos on the Body Language YouTube channel. What you do there is click on the playlists and take a look at the breathing playlist, or the playlist with all of the videos related to breathing. That will give you a quick overview of each video, of each deception tip related to breathing. Then you can take those deception tip numbers, because they're all the same. So if you go on and you click on one of the breathing episodes in the videos, and it's episode 46, pursed lips, and you watch that and you say, well, I want to know more. Well, guess what? It's super convenient. The same number is going to be in the ebook. It's Deception Tip 46. The same one's going to be in the revised and expanded edition of the book, so you can read about it. The same one's going to be the podcast, so you can listen to it. So check out the videos. Look at the playlist, get an idea of the different ones. You can recap them all right there. So, right now we're going to dive into an overview of all of the breathing-related episodes that are related to this tip. As I mentioned, episode 46, pursed lips, is one of them. How I mentioned that liars may purse their lips and then slowly exhale through them to kind of pacify that stress and tension involved in telling a lie. Another one, episode 54, breathe rapidly. Some liars, they may be breathing rapidly. Then, after a little while, you'll hear a long, slow exhale done as like a relief. Then, episode 63, chimpanzee lips. How liars may have lips like a chimpanzee that they're going to breathe out of or puff up, kind of like that blowfish. We talked about that before. But they're going to go in through the nose and out through extended lips like the chimpanzee. We did also speak of how they may puff up their lips and blow out like a pufferfish. Anyway, then, moving on to episode number 66, we talked about deep breath. How liars may kind of like hyperventilate almost, and then take a long, deep breath of relief or pacification, kind of like finally they are relieved that it's over, that the lie is done. Now, something typically associated with a long breath of relief is like a sigh of relief. And if you remember in a couple of those episodes, I mentioned how we're not talking about the sigh of relief here. This is just a deep breath or a breathing relief. Well, guess what? Today we finally are there. We're talking about the sigh of relief. Now, sighs are something that can happen after. So, like after they're done breathing, they've done this stuff, and they're relieved, and then now they're just going to sigh because it's done and it's over with. They're like, whew, yes, it's done. I'm so relieved. I'm so happy. Or they may sigh as in the typical sigh of contemplation. They kind of sigh, and then that's when they expect the people around them to go, what's wrong or what's going on? Well, I got this big decision I got to make, blah, 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 and it gets on like that. So, without further ado, here it is, deception tip number 74. Watch and listen for sighs, as they often come before heavy contemplation of an answer. Here it is again, deception tip number 74. Watch and listen for sighs, as they often come before heavy contemplation of an answer. All right, so sighs come before heavy contemplation of an answer, and I mentioned as a relief.
What you're looking for is the former. You are going to be interrogating people, interacting with people. When you're speaking to them and trying to root out whether or not they are telling the truth. That means you are going to listen and watch for these sighs, because these sighs often come before the lie may be told. If they are contemplating an answer, they're contemplating whether or not they're going to tell you the truth, or whether or not they're going to tell you some mixed up version of the truth, or part of a lie, or what they deem is a white lie, or whatever the case may be. They might sigh as they process that. Sighing could also be another stalling tactic. So keep that in mind. They may be doing this to buy themselves a little bit more time. Even so, it's something that happens when people are thinking more about what they're going to say next. In addition, it is more of a relief of what they have previously said. So you're going to hear it in those two circumstances. Today, again, we're focusing more on the prior, the before the answer. So when you pose a question to someone, when you are interrogating them or you're asking them whether or not they did this or that, listen for that. Pay attention to their body language, the sigh. Now remember another thing. Sighs, as according to this tip, remember it says watch for and listen for, because there are two different sighs. You can either have one where someone is audibly sighing, or there's a sigh of body language, kind of like that slump, the entire deflation of the person's body. They can sigh visibly as well as audibly. So you're watching for both of these. It's almost like a shrug of the entire body. Right before they answer, they may kind of slump and then give you their answer or their story about whatever they are planning on saying. And then it is up to you to determine whether that was a contemplation or it's a heavy answer. You know that it is already. So now you need to watch for the other body language signs that go after that and during their story to determine whether or not they're telling the truth. We're going to dive a lot more in to each and every one of those coming up right after this.
How would you like to stay sharp when it comes to reading people? Get the Deception Tips emails delivered to your inbox each week. Sign up today on SpencerKaufman.com.
Welcome back to episode 74, where we are talking about sighs. Now, a quick little reminder is that there are a couple different kinds of sighs. One that would happen before, that is the one we're talking about today. It's heavy contemplation of an answer. You're typically going to hear it or see it before someone gives their response or before they tell their story. Then you have the one of after. This is the sigh of relief. This is what the breathing episodes we've talked about. They were all long exhales of relief. Typically, you would have a sigh with that. It could be with, or there could just be an exhale, or it could be a sigh, or it could be both. So that is afterwards. After they're done telling their story, they're done stating their position, they're going to let out that sigh of relief, like glad it's over type of a thing. Then, with that, you have two types of sighs in addition to those two instances of sighs. One is the audible sigh that you can hear. The other one would be a visual sigh. This is the kind that is like a sighing of body language. It's as if they're fully inflated and then all of a sudden someone lets a little bit of air and they deflate. Their shoulders go down. It's like a reverse shrug. They just sink or slump down. That is like a sigh of the body language. So there can be two kinds. So you need to listen and watch for them. What do they mean? Well, when it comes before that statement or answer, it could mean several different things. They could be buying some time, as in they need to think about their answer, or they want to kind of rephrase, or they want to regroup their mind to get ready to deliver whatever the story that they have. So the sigh could be a little time buying, because obviously it takes a second or two. Now, it's not a lot of time, but it's enough. Just like repeating the question. We talked about that in episode 43. When liars may repeat the question in order to give themselves a little bit more time to answer it. The other one was in episode 64 with rephrasing the question. How liars can rephrase the question and then answer it in an effort to give themselves more time to plan or think about their response. So this is another instance. They may sigh to kind of give themselves a little bit more time to read the situation and come up with the best way to deliver their answer. Whether that's an audible sigh or a visual sigh, it's still done in an effort to give themselves a little bit more time to kind of relax right before that moment of stress or that moment of tension when they are going to present that lie to see if you're going to believe it. They kind of want to clear their head. That's that meaning or that portion. The other one is form of a contemplation. So they're going to sigh in an effort to kind of think about. Now this one, you're going to have more of a pause between the sigh and their response because they are thinking about whatever they're going to say. This isn't the regrouping. This isn't the part where they're sighing to kind of reset and then get rid of the stress and then deliver that lie or that story, whether it is the truth or whether it is false. This is more of thinking of a heavy answer. They are determining what they're going to do next. This is probably done before they're giving you the story or before they're giving you the answer. This you may hear when someone is about to ask you for advice, or when someone has already done something, or when they're planning to do something and they sigh because they're going to think about the pros and the cons of whatever that situation or whatever that outcome could be. This is the decision-making sigh. This is the one that people usually do audibly when they're expecting other people around them to come up and say, hey, how's it going? What's wrong? What was that for? Or what's on your mind? They're going to kind of use that sigh to prompt or solicit people's interactions so that they can start talking with someone and they can start interacting with someone to hopefully gain a better understanding of whatever situation they're about to encounter. Anytime you see these or hear these, you need to be thinking that, well, is it before something is about to happen or is it after something is about to happen? If it's before, then they're either contemplating or they're getting ready to deliver. If it's after, then it's some form of relief. If it's before and they're contemplating, what are they contemplating? Are they about to do something stupid, or are they about to do something, a big life change or a big decision? Or if it's before, are they about to deliver some kind of a story? Are they about to lie to you? Are they about to give up some kind of concoction? So, whatever comes next, if they sigh and things are done, then you see, okay, well, it must have been after, they're relieved. You could say, hey, what's going on? What are you relieved about? Or if it's before and they sigh, do they start talking or are they silent? If they're silent, they're probably waiting for you to give them some advice or to help them out. If they start talking, they're delivering something. And in that case, start paying attention and watch out for other signs of deception and other signs of body language, because they may be starting to either tell you a story that could be fictitious, or they're laying out a narrative of stuff that happened that they're going to either ask you a question about and want some advice, or they're telling you a lie and they're hoping that you believe it and that they get away with something, whether it's they're covering it up, they're hiding something, you never know. But that's why it is so important to listen for the different patterns and clusters of behavior that may occur. Not only listen for them, but watch for them, because there are a lot of visual signs as well as auditory signs. Keep that in mind, because there will be a number of them. So if you miss one, don't worry, because as we've said before, there will always be more. Remember, the conscious and the unconscious are fighting back and forth. The conscious wants to get away with that lie, and the unconscious wants the truth to come out. It will stop at nothing, which means there will be leakage after leakage after leakage, sign after sign after sign, and it is your job to notice them and pick them up. I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Deception Tips Podcast. I hope that you'll share it with your friends, subscribe to the feed, take a look at the Deception Tips videos, the blog, and check out the books I have available. And as always, tune in next week for a new Deception Tip.